response to work-life challenges for women in the era of digitalization. We are thankful to all for joining us today. I take pride in introducing our college to the audience. Meherchand Mahajan DAV College for Women lies in the city of beautiful Chandigarh, India. It was established in the year 1968 by the DAV College Managing Committee, New Delhi, to commemorate the meritorious services rendered by Justice Meherchand Mahajan, former Chief Justice of India, in the fields of law, administration, and education. The institution enjoys peerless reputation in the sphere of higher education for women and has remained ahead of times with its innovative programs and infrastructure. We are one of the largest institutions devoted to women education for the past more than half a century with a strength of more than 5,300 girls. The institution has been re-accredited with A grade by NAC in November 2016. We have been consistently ranked among the topmost colleges in the region by India Today, The Week, The Tribune in their yearly surveys. We have won Punjab University Women's General Efficiency Sport Shields 39 times, and we have been accorded star status by Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology. The college has received the singular national honor of being the cleanest residential college in the country in the National Swachh Campus Ranking 2018 by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. It has also won the All India third rank in the Best Citizen-led Initiative in the Swachh Sarvekshan by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India in 2019. Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India selected our college as training center for the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, surpassing all previous records. Our academic achievers secured 207 top 10 positions in Punjab University examination 2018 and 19. Taking forward the legacy of academic excellence, the PG Department of Sociology of Meherchand Mahajan DAV College for Women is actively engaging for achieving holistic development of students, and our star performers, Nancy Cover, she has gained the Gadgil Medal 2019 for topping in social sciences. Meenu Deswal, she was a university topper in BA Social Honors, third semester in 2018, and many other several top positions tell the success story. Now, I would like to invite our associate, Mr. Deepak, to introduce to the audience our wonderful guest for today. Deepak, are you there?
Yes, good morning. Good morning to all of our participants, and a very, very warm welcome for this interesting lecture on International Discourse on Sociology of Health with special reference to work-life challenges for women in the era of digitalization. This lecture will be delivered by our esteemed
Deepak, we are not able to hear you properly.
मैम आई थिंक उनका कनेक्शन लूज हो गया.
Yes. Alan sir, thank you for joining us today. I hope you are able to hear us properly.
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being so polite and humble. It's always a pleasure to hear you. I'm just trying to coordinate with Deepak.
Okay.
Deepak, have you joined back? Ashish sir, I hope he realizes that he lost the connection.
मैम उनको कॉल कर सकते हैं हम?
His phone is switch off. I'm calling. Let me try again, sir. मैं try करती हूँ. So let me take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed expert for today to the audience. This is again Dr. Meenakshi Rana doing, and I am take this privilege to introduce Deepak. Are you there? I was about to start. I was taking your chance. Unmute yourself, Deepak. Unmute yourself. Yes,
Actually, there was some problem in my laptop.
it's
So
fine. It's fine. You may
yeah,
continue now.
I'm trying to connect from my laptop. Just
I was about to take your privilege. I was about to introduce Alan, sir.
okay, even that is fine. That is okay with me. Can you just see me?
It's okay. Take your time.
Yes, yes, yes. Normally it happens with every important occasion. Yes.
It's
Uh,
completely fine. You may continue, please.
yes, yes. Good morning to all of our participants, and a very warm welcome for this interesting lecture on international discourse on sociology of health, with special reference to work-life balance, challenges for women in the era of digitalization. This lecture will be delivered by our esteemed speaker, Professor Alan Furr, who is the Emeritus Professor of Medical Sociology in Auburn University, United States of America. There is a proverbial expression in United States that there is no such thing like free lunch. But I must tell you that till now my experience with Professor Furr is totally opposite. I got almost everything free of cost from him, be it his valuable advice or the best-selling books or anything for that matter. He is just like a father figure to me, a true gentleman and a mentor par excellence. So before we formally start this lecture, I would like to formally introduce our esteemed speaker for this lecture. And it is my profound privilege to introduce Professor Furr, Alan Furr, who is the Emeritus Professor of Medical Sociology and has very kindly consented to deliver this lecture on a very relevant topic, which has generated tremendous response among our participants. Professor Furr did his PhD from the State University of Louisiana in 1986 and thereafter joined faculty and taught in leading American universities. During his long academic career, he chaired not one but two sociology departments, first in University of Louisville from 2004 to 2010 and then in Auburn University from 2010 to 2016. He has delivered several invited lectures in major sociological conferences and also published extensively in peer-reviewed journals. In addition, his social articles commonly feature in major American newspapers and is also a sought-after speaker in American TV channels and other national networks. He has also authored two books, namely Women, Violence and Social Stigma, a sociology of burned attacks, and Exploring Human Behavior and the Social Environment. And during his long academic career, he has also guided many PhD students. Professor Furr is also the recipient of very prestigious Fulbright scholarship in 2005, and then again, keeping in view his outstanding work, he was also awarded Fulbright Program Specialist in 2017 till 2020. He is also the recipient of major research grants for conducting social surveys and also to delve into major sociological issues. Although I tried my hard to the best of my abilities to cover his long CV, which spanned over a period of 35 years, but I'm sure I still would have left a lot of information untouched. So once again, we are really very grateful to Professor Furr for agreeing to deliver this lecture, which has generated, I've already said, huge interest. I'm also thankful to Principal Ma'am and especially Dr. Meenakshi Rana, whose prompt reply paved the way for this wonderful lecture. So besides teaching, I believe MCM this swift and prompt response is also a hallmark of Professor Furr, and I believe he has delivered this lecture in a very timely manner. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Furr hallmark of MCM DAV and PGI to have their association with us. And we are also hopeful that our association in future will also continue. So not wasting any more time between our participants and Professor Furr, I now hand over proceedings to Professor Furr. Thank you very much.
Alan sir, before you start, just a humble request, can we have a group photograph? And I would like to let you know all the senior faculty members of our department, Dr. Bhavna Sood, the head of the department, and other senior faculty members, Dr. Bindu Dogra, Dr. Ramandeep Kaur, all are here. So I extend warm welcome on their behalf to you, and all faculty members, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being there. Kindly turn on your cameras and show us your beautiful faces with a smile so that I can click some good photographs. Thank you, Bindu ma'am. Thank you, Raman ma'am. All of you kindly turn on your cameras for a while. Thank you, Archana ma'am. I'll just take a moment. Yes. With a smile, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Taken. Thank you. Yes, sir, you please start. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Deepak, for that very kind and warm introduction, and also for connecting me to the very prestigious Mirchand Mahajandav College. And also thank you, Dr. Meenakshi Rana, for organizing this lecture, Dr. Bhavan Sood, head of sociology, and Dr. Nishan Bhargava, for the principal of the college, for allowing this event to occur. And thank you to everyone at the college. I appreciate the introduction to the college that you gave, Dr. Rana. I knew the college was very prestigious, but to hear of all of your achievements was very nice to hear. I thank you for that. And thank you in the audience for joining us, especially students who are watching via the digital technology that we're here to discuss. I apologize for not speaking with you in Punjabi or Hindi. Sadly, my language skills are quite poor. But let me say, may aaj aapke saath rahe aur khush hoon. I'm very happy to be with you today.
That's wonderful, sir. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Punjab and Chandigarh are like second homes to me. Since my first arrival in Patiala many years ago on the Fulbright scholarship that Deepak mentioned to teach at Punjabi University, I've felt the comforts at home always when I'm in Punjab and in Chandigarh. I have many, many friends throughout Punjab, Delhi, and Chandigarh. I wish I could be with you in person, but it's wonderful that we can be here together virtually to share a few ideas. That said, please keep in mind that it is 6:30 in the morning here in the beautiful Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, our mountain home where my wife Abby and I have retired. On occasion, if you'll excuse me, I may need to take a sip of my Punjabi chai that I made this morning. My chai that my Punjabi friends have approved of my chai. I've made it for them when they come to visit me, and that they approve of my chai is one of my proudest accomplishments. But it is quite early. The sun has not yet to rise, but I'm very happy to be with you this morning, this afternoon in India. But you know, we didn't come together to talk about my chai. We're here to talk about how digital technology is affecting our everyday lives. This is a huge topic, so we're going to focus on a few important aspects of this rather new phenomena, namely how digital technology is affecting the balance between our work lives and our private lives. Now, we must remember that digitalization and its impact are culturally specific. How this dynamic occurs in the US and in other Western cultures is likely to be very different than how it happens in India. So my talk will be focused largely on the research and my observations here in the West, but you will need to use your own experience and expertise to see how these technological changes affect people and social life in India. Our specific question today is how digital technology in the workplace affects what is called the work-life balance. So let's begin by defining what these terms mean. When we say digitalization, it's a term we all think we know what it means, but let's give a definition to it so that we're together with the words. Digitalization refers to digital as opposed to analog technologies that relies on the application of microprocessors and computers to create and disseminate information, images, and calculations. It's technology used to solve complex problems. Digitalization implies perpetual connectivity within and among organizations and individuals through communication applications and the ability to connect remote computers. It allows immediate access to virtually all information regardless of where you are. So with this device, I can talk to practically anyone in the world by voice or messaging and retrieve almost all of the knowledge that's ever been generated on Earth. It's indeed a revolutionary invention and innovation. The work-life balance. By work-life balance, we're talking about a state of equilibrium where demands of work and personal life are equal. This equilibrium means we can manage the demands of our work and our personal lives without emotional distress. It means that one side of life does not interfere with the other. So there's a balance. And as with all life, the key to everything is balance and harmony. So it's that balance between the demands of work, kind of outside the home, and then the demands of our personal lives. But sometimes it's not easy to keep these life expectations in balance because there are social forces that exert a great amount of pressure on us. And these pressures can interfere with our family life, our personal goals, and life satisfaction in general. And digitalization is one of those social forces. It is external to us, It is external to us and our immediate, and it affects our immediate and personal social space. And like all social forces, the question is not, does digitalization affect work-life balance, but how does it affect the way we manage expectations of work and technology and integrate them into our personal lives? If we look back in history, this isn't really a new question. Whenever there is a major shift in economic technology and systems, personal life has been impacted. The nature of people's everyday lives has changed. The digital revolution is just the most recent paradigm-shifting technological advancement. In all such revolutions, personal life and individual and familial relationships to work have had to react and adapt. For example, let's go way back in time, 12,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution. It caused us to abandon a nomadic and hunter-gatherer lifestyle for a community-based economy and a community-based social relationships. Sedentary life changed families and individuals in many ways. New identities formed as new occupations were created. New systems of authority and power emerged, all of which had impact on how we saw ourselves, how we lived our personal lives. All of these things came from outside our personal space, social forces that affected us. In the agricultural revolution, people now had a permanent home, which was also the center of their economic selves and productivity. And after the agricultural revolution, children became an economic asset because they were needed to work and to increase production for the family. Men and women began to have different roles in agriculture when they lived on farms and villages. However, men and women worked alongside each other in the fields, and their survival required them to cooperate economically. Home space was both personal and economic. And I'm sure it wasn't easy. At the time that agriculture, came around, it wasn't easy for our ancient ancestors to have to make this adjustment. Let's skip a few important historical periods and move ahead from 10,000 BCE to 1750 of the Common Era and the Industrial Revolution, the last major technological transformation before the Digital Revolution. The Industrial Revolution also had a significant impact on work-life balance. Several important changes occurred. Unlike in agricultural economies and industrialization, the home became a place of economic consumption, not productivity. People, usually men, left home to go to work in a factory owned by someone else who paid them a wage. Unlike in agriculture, children became an economic liability and not an asset, as in industrialization. Children don't produce in industrial economies. They consume. They are expensive. So families got smaller, and social roles changed. Again, outside forces affecting the work-life balance and how people live their personal lives. In the Industrial Revolution, women were not permitted to work in factories, so their work-life balance shifted so that their work largely became domestic and unpaid labor. The balance of power shifted, and men's power increased because they controlled the family's economic and social resources. Again, people had to adjust their personal lives, their work-life balance, to adjust to the new demands of the external forces of wage labor, industrial relations, and urban living imposed on them by social forces. Now let's move ahead to the digital revolution, which began 230 years later in 1980 with the development of the internet and other communication technologies built on the back of increased computing power. Digitalization, just like agriculture and industry, has also had a profound impact on our economic activity and our personal lives. Digitalization has generated many positive innovations. As we mentioned, we can access and share information immediately around the globe. Almost all information is accessible and therefore, theoretically, more democratic. Digitalization has provided greater autonomy for many of us. We can do creative work in the comfort of our homes, at a park, in an auto. We can amuse ourselves, entertain ourselves, any place that we want as long as we can be connected. Anywhere we can take a computer, we can access and create knowledge. We can stay in contact with friends and relatives in India, in the US, or wherever they may be. Digitalization has enhanced problem solving. We can solve almost any problem now because of digital technology. So many wonderful things are happening because of the digital revolution. We just can't list them all. However, digitalization poses many complications in terms of managing the balance between work and our personal lives. And let's briefly take a look at a few of these. Digitalization has made it possible to assign more tasks to workers, and these tasks are expected to be completed in the same amount of time as before. This process is known as work speed up. Studies show that people who work in digital workplaces have more things to do than they did before the introduction of the digital technology. Many of these tasks are simply learning the systems that are now used to do our jobs. new work to do the old work. And sometimes the new way is neither faster nor more efficient, but work speed up is highly documented. We are simply working more. Because digitalization implies continuous connectivity, we are constantly exposed to work, employers, and clients. This also means that we can be, and often are, constantly monitored. Surveillance is ever present. With the right equipment, employers can theoretically check on us at any given time. Let me give you a related example. A couple of years ago, I had a colleague who taught an online course in sociology and statistics. As you know, online courses are designed for students to do the work at their convenience and at their own pace. Well, a student in the class was working on the material on a Friday evening and ran into a problem that she could not settle and wanted to ask the professor for further instruction. So she tried to contact him. Well, Friday nights are not usually work times for professors, and my friend wasn't available. But because he didn't respond at the moment the student was trying to contact him, she became very angry and complained to his department chair. She had the expectation that since she could take the course at any time digitally, the professor should be available at any time digitally, even on a Friday night. Well, supervisors can feel the same way. They can contact employees anytime they want. Third, digitalization creates technostress in many people. We had a little bit of that this morning with trying to get Deepak on. I had printer troubles, and when I was preparing this talk, I lost half of my presentation through some kind of saving glitch. So these things happen. A lot of people don't understand or like computers, and having to learn these technologies can be quite stressful. These people prefer not to abandon the old ways of doing things for new technologies that are often imposed on them. Plus, not everyone has the aptitude for computers. This reaction is a new form of stress that we often take home with us and affects our personal relationships. And then fourth, digitalization also influences the way we think. We are increasingly expected to process information just like computers. They force us to think that the world exists in categorical and discrete boxes rather than as a continuum, which is really how ideas and reality exist. Digitalization also leads us to be centered on linear production and outcomes rather than in terms of the social dynamics that are involved in a social process. For example, I really resent having to wait for a clerk in a store, if I'm buying food at the supermarket, for a clerk in a store to learn how to use a computer system while I am buying my groceries. That employee who's taking the time to, because the system doesn't work or is trying to learn it, is only thinking about the process of operating the computer system, not about the human relationships they have with me, their customer. To borrow from Max Weber, digitalization is directing us towards a new rationality, one that is based on efficiency and production, not on human-centered values. So the question of the day is how these negatives of the digital workplace affect our lives. How does it affect our work-life balance? For some folks, digitalization has benefits and improves their lives. Some people embrace the autonomy that computers provide, especially those in supervisory or professional roles. They enjoy working at their own speed, at home or anywhere they want. They often feel free from the oversight of having to work in an office or closely with others. They believe that using digital tools makes them more creative, more efficient, more productive. Those in supervisory roles also benefit from the ability to monitor employees and keep control of their workplace. They can maintain their authority more easily and feel more powerful. Others simply embrace the technology. They like it. They thrive on it, and they're not bothered by computers and their applications. These people have no trouble balancing their work and life in the digital age. But research has shown, however, that the digital economy, the digital workplace produces many negative outcomes in the work-life balance, and that these problems affect a large number of people, if not most. Research has identified 6 areas in which the work-life balance has been disturbed by digitalization. These outcomes are not discrete or separate conditions. They intersect, they interact. They probably happen together. So let's take a look at what we've discovered so far. One negative effect of digitalization is isolation. Most people prefer to work with other people, not alone at home or some remote location. They feel their productivity is enhanced when they are working in Congress with others. Their mental health is also better. Working in isolation can create chronic loneliness. And loneliness is not good for health. It can be a precursor for depression and several physical health conditions, such as heart disease. People, as we know, are social creatures, and we perform better with the support of others and feeding off the energy of others. We also get more enjoyment out of life when we are able to share successes and get through failures with the support of coworkers. Second, exhaustion. People working in digital workplaces have been shown to have more problems with chronic tiredness. Because of the work speed up, because of the more work that the digital workplace has put on us, people are working longer hours than they were previously. They have less time to recover from those longer periods of work. They have less rest, people are getting less sleep, and it is not helping them to enjoy the rest of their lives. People are working longer hours, getting more tired, and they have less time to recover. Relatedly, it's a concept called burnout. According to the World Health Organization, burnout describes feelings of excessive and chronic tiredness accompanied by feeling emotionally distant from work. People who experience burnout very often have a lot of feelings of negativity and cynicism about their jobs. Well, we know where burnout comes from. Burnout comes from exhaustion. It comes from feeling powerless. It comes from feeling that there are not enough suitable rewards for the work that they are doing. And studies are telling us that burnout is increasing in digital workplaces because of the high workload and the managerial monitoring that is going on. Burnout, we're finding in the digital workplace, burnout is more likely in clerical and office jobs because they also are experiencing monitoring and work speed up, but also because they are poorly paid relative to other jobs. Next, we've already mentioned technostress. As we've already mentioned, stress with dealing from the technology has been reported in many studies. And it's not just the aggravation of not being able to connect or my printer running out of ink last night when I'm printing off my notes. It is persistent and chronic stress. It has been shown in research that chronic digital technostress is affecting our cortisol reaction system, which we commonly call the fight or flight system, or flight or flight response, rather, excuse me. This means that technostress, if it is persistent and unresolved, it is stimulating the cortisol reaction process in our bodies. And long chronic exposure to cortisol is not healthy for us. It makes us sick. It makes us prone to mental health problems as well as physical health problems. Fifth, cognitive impairment. Research also shows that digital overload and stress are associated with memory and concentration problems. The tech likely causes too many interruptions, emails and texts, for example, which prevent us from focusing on tasks for enough time to finish them. Constant exposure to that process has been shown to affect our ability to remember things and to concentrate. It actually interferes with the skills of memory and cognition, or cognating rather. Memory problems can be caused by cognitive overload, and the pressure to respond to all the requests, all of the work that comes through digitalization, work speed up, for example, affects concentration and memory. And then lastly, erosion of personal boundaries. This is perhaps the most discussed effect of digitalization on the work-life balance. Many people feel that work and home life have collapsed on one another because of digitalization. Some people, don't have a problem working alone at home, but research suggests that most do. My dear friend, Dr. Cynthia Negre, a sociologist writing in her book called Work Time, calls this phenomena the electronic cottage. She describes the situation in which work and home life share space and time. And in this shared space, family, personal, and work identities fold into one another, leaving the person without a clear sense of who they are. But people working in the digital economy are not the same people as who live in agricultural economies. Merging work and home may feel uncomfortable. In agricultural economies, work and home, remember, go together. They share the space. But in post-industrial urban environments where work and family have to some degree been separated, folding them back together may be difficult for many people. They may find it stressful and frustrating. Personal life has a character and identity that is separate from work identity. But if the demands of work brought on by digitalization cause our personal boundaries and our family boundaries to erode, if they become permeable, when the work invades our home space, we can expect to see stress responses. There's an old famous book from the 1970s called Haven in the Heartless World by Christopher Lasch, one of my favorite historian authors. Lasch dispels the myth that the family is a place of tranquility where people go to re-energize and feel free and free themselves from the conflicts and antagonisms of the outside world. The home is supposed to be that haven within the heartless world, the safe port in the storm, but Lasch was among the first to tell us what really happens in the family. The family is where the norms and values of the larger society actually play out. The norms and values and the dynamics of the larger society are brought home with us, and in our home lives we enact, we create the norms of larger society. For example, it is in our families where we see the stresses of economic inequality. In the US, it's where we see the effects of racism. It is where we see the effects and the perpetuation of gender inequality and gendered norms and values that disadvantage women. So, for example, intimate personal violence, domestic violence. And our experience in the early years of the digital age is that Lasch's hypothesis still has merit. So we've seen how digitalization is brought home to our personal life space in general, but let's look at the specific, the real question of the day. Is there a gendered effect? Or do the effects of digitalization apply to both men and women equally? Well, there's strong reason to believe that the effects of digitalization may be hitting women stronger or harder than it is hitting men. So, if that's true, the question is, how do permeable personal and family boundaries, technostress, loneliness, exhaustion, how do these things affect women more than men? There's not yet a lot of gender research on this question, but we do know a little, and I'll add my own thoughts to fill in some of the gaps along the way. First, the primary source of digitalization's impact on women stems from the fact that they continue to have primary child care and household responsibilities, even if they work at a job for pay. Women are more likely to hold clerical jobs, which can easily be done from home, and these jobs typically offer little independence and are heavily supervised, and they're often not paid well. Women, therefore, are more likely to have their work and family space collapse on one another. If this occurs, work now happens where the children are and where the household responsibilities lie, which women are doing more of. It's all located now in the same space. So women working digitally from home pull what Cindy Negre calls double duty. When they bring work home, they're seeing more work disruptions. They're being pulled in several different directions at the same time. Exhaustion and burnout are likely to happen. Second, research suggests that women may experience more technostress than men. Women often have less workplace experience involving computers and their applications, and they have less exposure with computers in general. And this lack of experience makes women more vulnerable to technostress. Some interesting research there that shows that the effects of technology on women in terms of the stress of using them is higher. Third, men tend to define masculinity and being a good husband and father by being a good provider or breadwinner. Men tend to define themselves in relation to their public life, especially work. Women's self-identity, on the other hand, is more likely to stem from managing family relations and obligations and tending to children. Many times, the stress of these roles has an impact on women's health, and this is sometimes called the cost of caring. The cost of caring refers to the emotional and physical burden of caring for others and not tending to oneself, which can literally make women ill. Women who spend more time caring for others and not tending for themselves, for example, are prone to depression and anxiety disorders. Consequently, because women are invested in these relationships, they can easily become exhausted if their paid labor creeps into their family space. For men, since the breadwinner role is central to their identity, the erosion of family work boundaries may have less impact on their mental health. They can stay in control of their public lives without as many conflicts as digitalization poses for women. Digitalization provides new tools to reinforce the provider identity for men. And since men do less housework, digitalization poses fewer infringements on their work-life balance. So I think we can safely say that digitalization makes women more vulnerable to role strain and role conflict. Role strain, a condition that occurs when the demands of one role are so strong that tension arises. Role conflict occurs when performance of one role violates, contradicts, or interferes with another. Women's role expectations as wife and mother may become difficult to manage if their workspace or their work invades their personal space, their home space, their family space. And if confronted by both roles, they may have to choose which one to do, which means the other is not getting done. Role conflict and role strain are associated with psychological distress and even clinical depression and anxiety among women. The demands placed on women in the digital economy may create a larger burden on them compared to men and may cause conflicts between work and personal life at a higher rate, a higher likelihood or probability than for men. In addition, if digitalization causes work speed up, monitoring, and work-life boundaries to be fluid, Women are likely to have a greater sense of feeling out of control of their lives. Feeling in control of your own life is one of those 3 or 4 necessary conditions to establish good mental health. The influence of digitalization on our work-life balance is very real. It's affecting so many of us every day. How do we handle it? How do we handle this historically proportioned, transition from one type of life to another type of life? How do we keep our work-life balance in equilibrium, giving the power of these social forces impinging upon us? So I put together a list of some ideas to help us deal with the stress of digitalization. 1, negotiate a division of labor in the home. Partners need to work together to distribute the home workload fairly and equitably when they are both working for pay. One study that was conducted in India, by the way, has shown how effective this can be between partners. Couples need to find ways to share the domestic load when the outside world starts to invade, to creep in. 2, have a strong IT support system. My best friend is very often the IT person that I get on the phone first when I have a problem. Research shows that good IT help is a great way to avoid technostress. IT helps us feel supported, less lonely in dealing with tech problems that we may not understand. So make good connections with IT folks. 3rd, set limits on when you want to be connected when you're on your own time. I was a department chair for 12 years, and I had a rule that I was constantly bombarded by emails, and almost all of them wanted something from me. They wanted information, advice, they wanted me to do something. I mean, scores of them a day. So I created a rule. I did not respond to emails from 12 o'clock in the afternoon until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I did not respond to emails on Saturday. The rest of the time, I would be available for emails. But I had to have time to tend to my own work, tend to my own duties and responsibilities, get my own work done, and also just, to break away from the constant bombardment of people wanting something from me. 4, have a clear understanding of supervisors' expectations. When do they expect you to work? When do they expect you to be available? It's okay to talk to managers and supervisors about what they expect. Maintain boundaries of your own personal space. Don't let FOMO get to you. Do you know what FOMO is? FOMO is one of my favorite new social psychological concepts. FOMO, fear of missing out. Fear of missing out, or FOMO, it's an anxiety. It's a type of anxiety. It's brand new. It's a type of anxiety about feeling that others are having fun or getting information without you. And that causes a lot of psychological distress and anxieties for people. It's a real thing. And it can become a serious psychological issue for many people. But it's really okay if you are unaware of something for a few minutes or even a few hours. You do not need to constantly be checking email or text messages to see if you're missing out on something. If it's really critical, you'll get a direct phone call, okay? But be aware of this anxiety to constantly be in the know. Relatedly, be mindful of your emotions. Notice if you feel stressed, if you feel anxious or depressed on issues related, well, anything in life, but issues related to workplace and digital technologies. Keep centered. Practice relaxation and meditation to lower your emotional temperature. If you are getting so many emails and texts that you feel that you're starting to kind of, lose control, or if it's just becoming too much, turn it off, set it aside, do deep breathing, relax, and then gather your thoughts, gather your emotions, and go back and tackle the problems as they arise. Lastly, I want to pass on a piece of advice that was given to me one time when I had sort of lost control of my work-life balance. And, I was explaining to one of my religious leaders, I was explaining, how awful work was and how I couldn't get my personal life things done, and all this. And he just looked at me and he said one thing. He asked me, "Who do you work for?" And immediately I said, "The university." He goes, "No, you work for your family. You work for yourself. You work to take care of your family and your home. That's why you work. So your employer may pay your wages, but you're working for your family and you're working to achieve your own personal goals. Keep your priorities in order and you'll be okay. But remember, digitalization is an invasive process. It erodes our personal boundaries. It comes after us and takes up a lot of our space." Well, I think I'm about out of time. You now know what I know about the effects of digitalization on work-life balance. It is real. We are all either experiencing it or we will soon experience it. And I really appreciate you spending time with me today. I hope this digitally placed talk didn't cause you any work speed up or overload. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for having me, and I think we have a few minutes for questions, if anyone would like.
Yes, sir. Of course, we have. Do we have any questions, girls, students, and faculty members? If you want to ask something, you are more than welcome. Yes, Meenu?
Yes, sir. Alan, sir. Am I
Yes,
audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask that I have heard about right to disconnect from your work after work hours. So, but if I decide that for myself, but my boss doesn't agree to that, if he asks me to do some work, how can I handle such a situation?
Yeah, bosses often win, don't they? There are a few companies I've read about just in the news, a few companies that are actually imposing rules to enforce disconnectivity. So one of the things a person might do is negotiate with their manager, their supervisor, their workplace, and say, I have these things to do, and I need a certain amount of time, uninterrupted time, to do them. Would it be possible for me to have some disconnect time when I can turn my email and my text messages off so that I can get this work accomplished at the best that I can possibly do it? So if you cast it in a positive way, cast it in a way that is going to be good for the boss, for the supervisor, and say, I can do your work better if I can have some time where I'm not interrupted. So try to negotiate that and see if they would be willing to allow some time for you to get work done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Bindu ma'am? Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Okay, just sorry.
Yeah,
Am I
thank you.
audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Perfectly audible, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening, sir. And first of all, I just want to congratulate you for providing us such a vast information on this topic. And it was a very informative session. And you have explained each and every concept so beautifully and effectively. And each and every word was so relevant. It was a delight to hear you.
Thank you.
So I just want to, share something with you that, it is, I think I personally feel that this digitalization is also, imparting some sort of alienation among its people. I think the concept which was given and discussed by Karl Marx is, again, it is becoming relevant in the present situation, that how this digitalization is, creating a sense of hopelessness and powerlessness amongst us. And another thing that, as you suggested, the suggestions which you gave regarding handling the situation, I think most of the suggestions are the suggestions which, as individuals, we can do. But, sir, don't you think that we have to take up this issue at a higher level, at the level of organizations and institutions, and we should, put this across the table with the employers, because this is an issue which I think most of us are suffering right now. And I think due to pandemic, this has even aggravated more. So I just wanted, how can we promote it? How can we keep this, issue alive, and we can put it across the employers and across the organizations to improve overall health of the individuals who are involved in this kind of process?
You, excuse me, you are absolutely right. Everything you said is spot on. I only had 45 minutes. And I just wanted to focus on personal health and work-life balance. But your questions would be the next level, the next conversation, because yes, my Weberian and Marxist sociology self also says this is not just a manager-worker interaction issue.
Yes.
This is a macro class process, and I am particularly concerned about the exploitation of workers. The work speed up is not just an unfortunate situation of, oh, I've got so much work to do and only 8 hours to do it. This is about lowering the cost of production. Okay. And lowering the cost of production, of course, benefits one class interest over another, and it means not hiring people to do this extra work, and all those macroeconomic, socio-economic forces are in play. So the next conversation really is for workers plural, not workers singular, to negotiate with a particular boss or manager, but for workers to say to the organization, we can't handle this work speed up. We are working so much that our lives are eroding. That's a very different conversation. But the Max Weber negative side to me says, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to effectively do that, because so much of human work is already being replaced by digitalization. See, that's another question. Is digitalization does all these wonderful things, but it's also replacing us, and it's creating a larger wage gap. It is eroding middle class. It is it's just making it hard for people to find jobs, so or good paying jobs. So robotic, I can never say that word, turning things into robots, doing work by robots, and digitalization are having a really, really negative impact on the inequality of wealth and inequality of power. That's a political economy question, not a health question, but those are very real, and at some point it's going to become a social problem.
So
and
true.
We'll have to figure it out.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, can we take up 2 more questions? Ellen, sir?
Oh, it's 7:30 in the morning. I have all day.
Okay, thank you so much. Sir, first question belongs to me. Actually, I was listening to you very carefully, and actually it looked like that you are telling my own story. It looked like you are telling about me, the kind of day I spent with my devices. But the thing is, yes, psychologically we are more vulnerable to this stress, anxiety issues. But being a girl, being a woman, are we vulnerable biologically or physically also to these digitalization issues? Do we have that kind of biological makeup or hormonal imbalance or balance that make us more vulnerable to these issues?
Sorry, I have something blinking here I need to cancel. Well, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a physician, but I read extensively this literature, and I would say absolutely not. There is no reason to think that human males and females, have any constitutional, physiological, or psychological differences that would make us more prone to the consequences of digitalization. There may be, and there may be a very small connection between the social risks, those things that we talked about, and women's vulnerability to depression. This may be another pathway or avenue for women to move into an affective disorder. But we also have to keep in mind that we have no evidence to suggest that women's physiology makes them more prone to depression. I am convinced that social psychological factors explain the large majority of the difference in the depression rates and anxiety rates that we see among men and women throughout the world. The fact that in every culture every society, we see more depression in women than in men leads many people to say, well, it must be biological, but there's no evidence. It's not hormonal, it's not chromosomal, it's not anything that we can identify, except in a couple of situations that are unique to women, but these are temporary, short-term. These are not full-blown clinical depression, major depression.
Right.
So no, there is what makes women vulnerable to digitalization for affective disorders is the meshing of the social roles and social identities. So women are more vulnerable because of their social place in society, not because of their physical place in the biological.
Right.
Dr. Meenakshi, Sir's wife, Madam, is also a social psychologist, clinical psychologist, so you can have a full-blown section with ma'am.
We actually, sir, recently we have gone through so many studies, even Deepak knows, we have recently conducted so many studies, and we get to know that the incidence of stress, depression, anxiety is more in women. So that was a kind of curiosity in me, that are we more prone to biologically? But yes, sir is absolutely right. We are not talking to a biologist, but I was just trying to take that, are there any evidences available as far as literature is concerned? I was just trying to cross that.
Now, and again, I keep up with that literature quite a bit. It's women are vulnerable because of
but
their
I think it's a relevant question, yes.
Yeah.
It's
and
relevant.
Sir, okay, Bhavna ma'am has also some question. Yes, Bhavna ma'am.
Thank you, Meenakshi.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So this has been a very enriching session, and I'm really happy to be being a part of it. There are a lot of students who are attending this session. So what is that one advice you would like to give? Because we've been talking through the perspective of maybe an employer or an employee, but what lifestyle changes they need to adapt to? Because we keep telling them don't spend too much time on the mobile, but that is how they are attending their classes. So how do they deal with it?
I really wish I could answer that because, as we say, I would bottle it and sell it and make a lot of money. One thing that I always have to tell myself is I grew up in the age of a manual typewriter, even before electric typewriters. Students today have never not seen a mobile phone. They've never not seen a computer. They know how to keyboard. I didn't learn to type for a long, long time. They are growing up in a world that is already digitalized. Our world, or my world that I grew up in, the word digit meant our fingers, So it is hard sometimes for seniors to tell the juniors how to how to deal with the technology that they have always grown, it's always been a part of their lives. But what we can tell them is to remind them of the universally essential, important things in life. What are those things that give us satisfaction in life? So what do we know that makes for good mental health and happiness? It means the autonomy to make our own decisions. It means to have control of our lives. It means to know how to handle stress. Their stress was different than our stress when we were 19 years old, okay? But handling stress is universal. And clinical psychologists, those truths are eternal of how to process. I mean, there's always been stress, but how we handle them. So it's things like the FOMO, fear of missing out. I would tell students, because I'd see them checking, I'd say, it's okay. If someone has fun without you for 10 minutes, it's okay, So I think it's just those universal things that we know that make us happy, that prevent us from falling into that expression of that rabbit hole of depression, that we just know to be true in all cultures, in all places. And that's the right of self-determination, of self-reliance, to develop the skills to take care of ourselves in the world. They need technology, they need digital stuff to do that, whereas we didn't. But how can they use the digital things to make those things happen for them? They're not going to turn them off. Let's face it. Okay, students out there, I know you're not going to turn your phone off. To be honest, I can't turn mine off either. I keep this thing with me all the time. I use it. Actually, the phone, talking on the phone is the least used application on my phone. Okay? I use it for everything else. I use it for work, for play, just to settle an argument of who's right about something. We go to the phone. Oh, I got a phone call. That's weird, So these devices, they're like carrying a library in our pockets. They're like carrying a television in our pockets, carrying the radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
and
they're not.
We can, sir. I just want to add one more point. We can encourage the students to use the phone or devices for productive work if we are able to convince them. At least they can skip those gaming and social media for a bit, in case. You can just try, Bhavna ma'am, to convince them.
Sir,
Find the time. Yeah. Go ahead, Deepak.
So do you think that we need now new nomenclature for the hierarchies? Because just in primitive times we have farmers, then we had factory workers, then we have the clerks, managers. So do you think for this new digitalization we need some new nomenclature of the post, or new things means to work on?
New norms for the digital workforce, basically.
New nomenclature.
Yeah,
for example, farmer, and then you have factory workers, then you have clerks. So now we may need a kind of a digital workers or kind of digital supervisors, or so that we can train people to work for those specific posts.
Yeah, I think so. And corporations and governments are probably already doing that. You see changes in job titles quite a bit. A lot of them, the name changes in jobs are designed to help workers feel more connected to their workplace. So instead of being called a clerk, they may be called a team member. These real superficial constructs to make people feel that they are part of something, to create an identity mesh, to make it a primary relationship and a secondary place. I don't know how effective those are, but I think the digital everything is going to certainly affect language. It already has. It's going to affect identity, and it's going to affect our relationship with the workplace. I think in IT groups, they already have different names for different kinds of specialists and ratings, people who are rated to work on certain things and others. Yeah, so I think
Please kindly mute yourself, dear participants. Stay muted.
So
Just turn on your cameras.
But the norms is what's important, and that's what we've been talking about. The norms of when to be connected, when can I be off, how much are you going to monitor me? How we know that people who feel that they are micromanaged, over supervised, they have stress responses. Stress responses are not healthy. So there, at some point, there's going to have to be an individual and collective response to where some of this is going. I mean, it's very, it's very George Orwell. It's very 1984, if you're familiar with that famous novel, of the ability of the system to surveil everything we do. Those are real problems and will have an effect on health, and they already are. But yeah, I think the norms is probably more critical than nomenclature, because nomenclature can be superficial, but the norms would be very real. But it's all based on what the values are. Do we value workers as human beings, or do we value them as automatons doing work for the profit of the organization? Which goes back to
I just want to request all the participants once again, kindly turn on your cameras for a while to have a good picture together. Kindly turn on your cameras. Ashish sir, please turn on your camera for a while. Alan sir, Ashish sir is also there, our digital support always. And sir can also tell what are the work-life balance challenges he is having.
My work-life balances? Is that what?
No, sir. Actually, Ashish, sir, Mr. Ashish Modgil, he is our technical support all the time. He's managing all the devices. So I was thinking we should ask him also how he is managing all the things.
Oh, good idea.
Sir, before I hand over the platform to Bhavna ma'am for delivering the formal vote of thanks, I would like to express the heartfelt gratitude on behalf of our principal ma'am. Because of some reason she couldn't join. She was occupied and the reason was unavoidable. So I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude on behalf of our principal ma'am, Dr. Nisha Bhargava, who herself is an economist, an affectionate educator, compassionate administrator, and a beautiful writer at heart. Thank you for your humble presentation, sir, on behalf of Principal Ma'am. Now, I would like to hand over the platform to Dr. Bhavna Sood, the head of the department, PG Department of Sociology, to deliver the formal vote of thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, perfectly audible.
Okay. Respected Professor Alan Furr, our most valued guest speaker for today, respected Madam Principal Dr. Nisha Bhargav, respected Mr. Deepak, dear colleagues and my dear participants. It's an honor to propose a vote of thanks. It goes without saying the session has been very interesting and thought-provoking. I, on behalf of Meherchand Mahajan DAV College for Women, express my gratitude to you, sir, for gracing today's lecture. All health problems are conceived as social problems, which are the core focus of sociological studies. Today, with the digital revolution, it is so pertinent to talk on the ways of creating work-life balance. Health or lack of health was once merely attributed to biological or natural conditions. Sociologists have demonstrated that technostress, burnout, and other lifestyle diseases are greatly influenced by the digital revolution. Today's session has made us look at work-life balance through a sociological lens. Wellness is a modern word with ancient roots. Wellness is an active individual pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. It is multidimensional. Wellness is different from healthcare. Our healthcare systems use a pathogenic and reactive approach, focused on the consequences, diagnosis, treatment of diseases. In contrast to wellness is a salutogenic, proactive approach focused on prevention, healthy lifestyles, and the pursuit of optimal well-being. A solid foundation for wellness would help us prevent and overcome stress, both at present and in the future. From a sociological perspective, A health promoting lifestyle is to be understood in a broader sense than simply as behavior related to health. Unless we become more responsive to recent challenges and more engaged with other scientific approaches, we cannot deal with the present crisis. And each one of us need to work on creating a balance in our lives first. I take this opportunity to request you, sir, to support us in future also, and we wish to organize such an event, but hopefully on the college campus in your presence. Once again, our heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. Thank you so much. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. We are grateful to Madam Principal for always supporting us in organizing such sessions. Our sincere gratitude goes out to all the faculty members who could join us today for this session. Finally, a big thanks to all the wonderful participants. It could not have been possible without your presence. Thank you. And now I would request Dr. Meenakshi to formally end the session.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ma'am. Ellen sir, I would like to tell you one more thing. There is Dr. Preeti Gambhir also. I am requesting her to turn on her camera. Actually, she is handling all the digital devices in the lockdown period also. Sometimes she has to work more than 8 or 10 hours a day along with the Ashish sir. Preeti ma'am, can you unmute yourself? Actually, I am not very much informed about, because she is doing the live streaming on the YouTube channel. So I'm not aware whether she is able to turn on her camera or not. Oh, she cannot unmute herself and she cannot turn her camera on. But being a woman of digital support, she can definitely have an insight. And in future, sir, I'll take her insight how she is balancing her work life along with all the digital platform. So I will take her insight and share with you, Alan, sir, because we are looking forward to more and more sessions with you. You are such a humble personality. And that Hindi, sir, we want that Hindi one sentence again, sir. That was the USP today. That was a limelight. We want to hear that one sentence again, sir. That Punjabi chai or यहाँ मौजूद होना आपको बहुत पसंद आएगा, या any other sentence.
It'd be my pleasure.
Second, yeah, I am requesting you to speak a Hindi sentence again.
Oh, okay. I warned you my language is very poor. I will get back to you on that. I have to do homework and practice.
So that again sentence you can repeat that you have memorized in the beginning.
I didn't memorize it. I wrote it down.
Okay, you wrote it down. You can.
But my notes, I can't find my notes. Sorry. I'm going to pass.
Okay.
I fail.
It's fine, sir. It's fine. Fine, sir. Looking forward to see you here, sir, and looking forward to see you directly, physically, not in this digital platform, soon with us.
We will soon meet.
Thank you so much for being there, and we are honored. Thank you, sir. Thank you from the whole organizing team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, dear participants. We have come to the end. Kindly fill the feedback form to get the e-certificates, and we thoroughly enjoyed the wonderful session, sir. Thank you, Deepak, for being there, and thank you, Professor Alan, once again. Thank you.